My next bit of kit, not necessarily going to be that obvious, but it's a phone. I had a very well-known Hollywood celebrity that was single, so it was very handy to give him one of these with a pay-as-you-go SIM, which made his life a lot easier if he was giving out his numbers to new friends. The types of threats that I've had to deal with have been so far-reaching and varied, from individuals that have had aggrieved business partners, those that have upset organized crime, stalkers or fixated persons, through to terrorists. Depending on where you are in the world will depend on whether you're going to be armed or not. I've been in ambushes with local bandits in places like Iraq and in Africa, where there's been exchanges of gunfire. I'm still here. I don't have any holes, so we can guess what happened to the other guys. If you're having to start producing firearms in a situation, something's gone very badly wrong in the planning. The close protection is probably 99% boredom, 1% excitement. You need to be able to react very quickly in that 1% and turn from the nice guy to the warrior in a nanosecond. One of the first things that I would always suggest that you have is a pen. Every good operator has a pen. And a tactical pen is doubling up on that option. A tactical pen being a steel pen, which allows you to break glass, maybe to emergency escape a vehicle. I'll leave the rest to your imagination what you can do with a steel pen, but very handy for making notes. My next bit of kit, a tactical torch. If you are coming out of a situation or a building with a celebrity where there is some very intrusive paparazzi, the strobe on this is especially good, because what that will do is blind your assailants very, very quickly. A personal attack alarm. Amazing how many guys will turn around and say, don't really need a personal attack alarm, isn't that surely for the ladies? Well, chaps, you're limiting your thinking. These can also act as fantastic intrusion detection. Let's say you're protecting a principal in a particular venue. You can't control one particular door, or no one can find the key to lock it. Fix this to one side, fix this to the other side. If someone opens the door, the pin comes out, and you've got an intrusion alarm. My next bit of kit, not necessarily going to be that obvious, but it's a phone. I had a very well-known Hollywood celebrity that was single, so it was very handy to give him one of these with a pay-as-you-go SIM, which made his life a lot easier if he was giving out his numbers to new friends. One of the core skills that you need to have in this game is instinct and intuition. And it's our instinct and listening to it and reacting to it, which is critical, not just in this job, but generally in our lives. And it's one of the fundamental elements we have as human beings that protected us way back in the days when we used to live in caves and fight saber-toothed tigers. You could be picking up on a behavior, a face in a crowd, someone who's walked into a room, someone who's turned up at a venue, that gives you that feeling, and enough for you with your spidey senses to just go, I'm just going to keep half an eye on that person.
Can you talk us through a specific incident where you had to protect someone?
When you're with your principal, your responsibility is to keep them alive. Even if it is without wishing to sound melodramatic, but that's what we get paid for, at the expense of your own. And I remember one particular very, very well-known international celebrity that I was taking through an arena, and this huge woman grabbed them in a bear hug, and this poor guy, he was held in there. And for me as a close protection officer, I wasn't comfortable with the situation anyway, but then trying to extricate him from this giant was a heck of a job, because you've got to bear in mind there's always going to be cameras, whether that be the press or just people with their phones, that they're going to record absolutely everything. And there's me battering someone to get my principal out, only if it was life or death and I could fully justify it. Other than that, you've got to be as discreet and gentle as possible. Anybody who comes into this business needs to learn how to be a chameleon in many ways. With a corporate executive, you want to present yourself much like one of their assistants or associates or colleagues, not as their protection officer. One of the techniques that I've always used is where a principal doesn't want you to be too close to them, was I turned to this very, very well-known industrialist who turned around to me and said, look, Will, I don't want you too close. And I said, real simple, boss. You have your fingers, you put them together when you're talking to people. If I'm too close to you, draw your hands apart as you're talking. I'll be watching, and that means I'm too close. If you feel I'm too far away, however, bring your fingers together. And he loved it, and I've used it ever since. I have to care about my principal. If I'm going to be working every hour around the clock, if I'm going to be putting my life at risk, I've got to care about that principle. But I've got to care about the role that I'm doing rather than necessarily the individual themselves. But if you don't, and you have a principle that is potentially reckless and dangerous, when it all goes horribly wrong and there's blood on the wall, you're the guy who's going to get blamed.